Your track doesn't need more, it needs a stronger foundation. Most producers think a flat track is a mixing problem. So they add more top loops, more layers, more processing, trying to fix something at the end that should have been designed from the start. But here's the thing, adding more layers doesn't equal more energy. It's compensating for a weak hook. So in this video, we're going to be covering 4 points: knowing your hook, contrast, tension and release, and using space as an instrument so your energy is locked in from the beginning. But before we get into that, my name's Miles, and if you're serious about leveling up your production and joining a community of like-minded producers, our production membership was built for exactly that. If you'd like to find out more, the link will be in the description below. So point number 1 is going to be knowing your hook first. Before we add too much into our tracks, we need to understand what our most memorable element is. You should look at this part of your track as a hierarchy. You need to decide what the most singable or memorable moment of your track is. If you go and listen to a song called Breather by Chris Stussy, and you listen to the bass line that comes in, you'll notice it's extremely memorable. And if you've ever seen this song live, or if you've ever seen a video of it, not only does the crowd erupt, but everyone is singing the bass line. Now, even though this is a song without lyrics, the bass line is something that's really memorable, and that is the hook of his track. And that's not an accident. It's a decision made repeatedly throughout the production process. So the first problem you need to solve is if you can't identify the hook, then your track doesn't have one yet. So for this track of mine, I've decided that the main hook is going to be the vocal, and everything else is going to be to support that hook. We're just going to play everything but the vocals. We can already hear that this has a strong foundation without any noticeable hook. Whereas if this were to collapse without the vocals, that means your foundation needs more work. Whereas now if I turn back on the vocals, and I'll play a little bit before the drop, and I'll play with and without, so we can immediately tell that not only does having a vocal there elevate the entire track altogether, but if we didn't have those supporting elements to reinforce the hook but not get in the way of it, the track just would not be the same without it. Point number 2 is going to be contrast. The reason why this hook hits so hard is because there are moments without it. Throughout your track, the absence of a hook or a chorus is what will make the hook and chorus so much more memorable. So I'm just going to play you a quick example of what a competing element with the vocal sounds like. Now I'll play it with and without. But you can hear it's actually starting to compete with our hook, which is the vocal. Now it doesn't sound inherently bad or wrong, it's more so distracting from the hook rather than reinforcing it. So this is what it sounds like without it. So we can hear that the mid bass there is just distracting from the hook, which is why I've turned it off. And that's why this hook lands so well, is because nothing is there to compete with it. It's there to just reinforce from the beginning. Another point to add too with contrast is we're constantly bringing things in as well as taking them away. Once something fills a purpose in your track and it no longer fills that purpose, that's when you remove it. For example, in the verse here, I have this unique lead sound. But it isn't playing in the drop here. That's because that lead sound is filling a purpose in the parts of the track that have less energy. So we're creating that contrast for allowing certain sounds to have their moment at different parts of the track, and we're letting other sounds have their moment in other parts of the track. Point number 3 is going to be tension and release. So a big point to add is that energy comes from the cycle of building and releasing, and not from constant fullness. If your track is at full energy right out of the gate till the very end, it's just going to be too hectic. That's why that big breakdown before a huge drop just feels so powerful, because things are taken away before they come back in fullness. So I'm just going to play the breakdown and the build up and then back into the drop. And I want you to hear how this sounds. Whereas if we didn't have that absence before the drop, without the build up, it's just not going to hit the same. Just to give you an example, we'll play it like this. So we can clearly hear that having that anticipation, then having the release at the right moment is what makes that drop hit so much harder. So just to prove my point a little bit more, I'm going to turn off some elements that I think are contributing to the tension. You'll notice here that without having the right tension, the release just isn't going to hit the same. So I'll turn off the reverse kick, snare roll, pre-drop fill, crash, and the string. I'll even turn off the vocal, and we'll start here. So spend just as much time with the tension section as you do with the release, because they both serve the same purpose. And having certain elements, having a nice sustained string during a breakdown is the perfect way to add some tension. I'll play it with it. And without it. So even though the difference is quite subtle, it actually makes a huge difference. So just making those minor tweaks to your tracks can make them hit a lot harder. So remember, keep your intro minimal, build your layers up as the song evolves, strip it down for the breakdown, and that way you can return with the full groove. And that's what's going to create that unique energy arc throughout the track, which proves it's not discovered in your mix, it's actually before that. Point number 4 is going to be using space as an instrument. I want you to ask yourself a question when you're writing next. When you reach for another sample or sound to fill a gap, ask yourself whether or not that gap is actually serving a purpose, because that space between the elements is actually a compositional choice. So I'm going to reintroduce a few elements here in the drop. I might even add the string back in, like so. So already, our drop is looking really full. And I'm going to play it with all these extra elements in it. I'm going to turn off the vocal. already super busy. If we go back to how it was before and we play it without the vocal, and that time between the synths playing is actually serving a purpose. And the track actually holds together a lot better. We've allowed for room for the vocal to breathe rather than clustering everything in together. And I'll just reintroduce the vocal. So if that space wasn't there, it would all just sound way too crowded. So treat your space like an instrument and program it deliberately, and you might actually get some interesting results. And just as a bonus tip for the people that have stayed till the end, a big point in having energy is having constant movement throughout the track. Examples of this could be subtle filter automation on your bass, maybe some reverb automation on a send, maybe even having a delay throw on your hook, like on the vocals. Doesn't need to be lots, just pick one element and make it come alive with some movement. You have to remember that energy comes from movement and not density. And a track with fewer elements that evolve has more energy than 10 elements that are static. So there you have it. That's 4 ways with a bonus tip that you can add energy into your track rather than it being flat. Remember, energy isn't something that you add at the end. It's something that you build at the start and throughout the track. By having a strong hook, contrast, tension that builds before the release, space that gives it room to breathe, and movement just to keep it alive, get those right and your track is going to sound energetic before you touch a single compressor. I'd love to know in the comments below what your go-to hook is for your tracks, and have you found that your other elements tend to compete with it or serve it? If you're interested in our production membership, the link will be in the description below. If you feel like your drums have been feeling like they've been programmed rather than played, you should check out this video on why your drums feel programmed and not played. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.